My husband and I have a tween son, Eric, and a kindergarten-age daughter, Jess. My husband had an affair with an ex-coworker 8 years ago, and he had a daughter. My husband and I did lots of family counseling, and I forgave him. He has custody over his other daughter some weekends a month. Quite honestly, I don't like the girl. Her mom is poisoning her against my kids and me. If possible, I spend little time with her. My kids also don't like her and don't want to play with her. Yesterday, her mom had an emergency and needed my husband to take care of the girl for a couple of hours. So she dropped her off and left. At some point, Eric wanted to play with his dad. Jess wanted to play as well. So he got a ball and they were going to play with it. My husband's daughter wanted to play too, but Eric didn't want to. And they started arguing. Then the girl told my son he had to play with her because she's his sister. My son told her, "No, you're not. Only Jess is my sister." And the girl started crying. Sometime after, her mom came to pick her up, and she told her what had happened. I don't talk to her at all, so I was making dinner, but could still hear what they were talking about. She told my husband our son needed to apologize. My kids were with me in the kitchen, and my husband came up and asked Eric to go and apologize to his daughter. He said he wouldn't, and I told my husband that he wouldn't make my son apologize to his daughter for his feelings. He's not entitled to consider his daughter a sister. He tried to argue, but I told Eric not to apologize. Finally, he went over to the door where this woman and her daughter were waiting, and he told her that Eric didn't want to apologize. She went off on him and told him he was making their daughter feel like she was less than my kids. Then she left. Now my husband is blaming me for not making things easy for him. He said his daughter's a little girl too, and what our son said hurt her feelings. Am I the idiot for not making my son apologize? Edit. She knew he was married. Oh boy, he knew he was married. Obviously, you are the idiot, OP. And all the adults are idiots here. I can't believe that 3 adults can be so stupid and selfish when it comes to kids. The only reason those kids don't even try to get along is that they have crappy parents. You haven't forgiven your husband. You tolerate him because you don't want to be alone. You're honest about not liking the woman, and you punish the child by not treating her nicely. The child is not to blame, and you should be encouraging a relationship between your children and your stepdaughter, like a good human. Your husband sucks too. All 3 kids are going to be emotionally scarred due to the adults being too petty to do what's right for the kids. Yes, your husband is guilty because he was the one who was married to you. He was the one who betrayed you. But the only one who still gets your wrath is a child and the other woman. You say you forgave him, but it doesn't make sense. You're still bitter. Divorce his butt and be done with it. Go your own way, but don't involve the child in adult matters. Her mother is poisoning her against my children and me. She then allows her son to say the meanest possible things to the child, with no consequences. Are you self-aware at all? You shouldn't have stayed. You're punishing an innocent child because your husband couldn't keep it in his pants, and you hate her existence. Whether you like it or not, she is your children's sister, and as the adult, it is your responsibility to teach them how to be good people. And while you may not be consciously aware of it, you're failing in that task. Maybe stop having her over. She shouldn't have to be in an environment where she's treated badly. So I, a 22-year-old male, went to visit my parents, a 58-year-old male, and a 55-year-old female, this past Saturday. My parents love watching Investigation Discovery, and they were watching a case about a doctor who had a double life. He had 2 wives and 4 children, without any of the wives knowing. He had apparently divorced his first wife to marry the second without the first wife knowing. I hate cheaters, homewreckers, deadbeats, etc. So I usually make comments while watching TV. For example, if a doctor got hit by a car and died, I would say, the garbage deserved what he got with his death. Nothing of value was lost. My dad looked at me and said, "That means you would hate me if I happened to have children you don't know about." I replied, "Of course, if you happen to have more children that I don't know about, you're dead to me. And I wouldn't cut you off because you cheated, but because you're vile enough to deny and hide a child. You would be garbage that I want nothing to do with." That was pretty much it. He laughed, my mom laughed, my brothers, Tina, 25, laughed, and we had dinner and I left. I wasn't calling him trash. That conversation was just a hypothetical scenario. When I got home, I received a message from my dad saying he was disappointed that my love was so conditional and that I shouldn't have disrespected him with such statements. I explained it was just a hypothetical scenario and hung up. I tried calling him, but he's refusing to talk to me. My mom and my little brother said my comment was a little bit mean and that I should apologize. My older brother thinks there's nothing to apologize for since this was just a hypothetical scenario. And to be honest, I would do it. I see the little boy crying every time his mom is supposed to pick him up, and she doesn't. So that breaks my heart. Denying a child or hiding them to keep up appearances is a crime. My sister, who is 24 years old, is more neutral about all of this. She says she wouldn't care if my dad had a child, but would understand if I cut him off. Not the idiot. Your dad's ego is so fragile that he's throwing a tantrum over the possibility that people would be upset with him for hiding a double life from his family. If he doesn't want to know the answer to these kinds of questions, he really shouldn't ask them. No apology is necessary. However, something tells me that this is not just a hypothetical situation for my dad. It could be that he had a child with someone before he married my mom, or maybe he cheated on her. Who knows? I think it's important to talk to my dad and find out where this is all coming from. The situation of walking away to start fresh happened with my grandfather, but it was much more complicated than it seemed. I found out about this uncle when I was in my 20s, and it was shocking. At first I was angry, but then I heard the whole story and just felt sad for my grandfather. It's not a stretch to say that this kind of situation is more common than we think. I didn't realize it until I found out that my dad is not my biological father. Ancestry.com has a whole section dedicated to surprise family members. It's possible that my dad had a child when he was younger and put them up for adoption. However, I believe that there's still a lot for me to learn and mature in. I am allowed to have strong convictions in my values and choose to surround myself with people who share those values, especially when it comes to honesty and the well-being of children. However, I understand that my expression of these convictions may need some refinement. I should also be aware that my circle of friends may close quickly if others value a more amicable temperament. I don't necessarily believe that my dad has a secret child, as others are saying. I think he is hurt to learn that our relationship could be thrown away over a hypothetical mistake in his past. He may feel that he cannot be forgiven even if he has grown and changed. It's unfair to discount 22 years of our relationship without any inner conflict or second thought. I believe that my dad just wants to be accepted as he is, flaws and all. I went to a trendy restaurant tonight with 3 other people. It was very busy, and we waited for about 30 minutes for our table. We sat indoors, and the back wall seating was one long bench. All along there were tables of 4. We were seated next to a full table of 4. The man on the bench seat near us had what appeared to be a service dog on the seat. I squeezed in, and it was a tight fit, so I asked the man if he could keep his dog on the ground. The dog's tail was literally on me. He told me no, and said he needed his dog to be close to him. I was getting incredibly frustrated and uncomfortable. This man was doing nothing about his service dog being on me. I asked him again to get the dog off the seat, but he refused. He claimed that his dog had rights, and he didn't have to listen to me. I became upset about needing my personal space, and the dog not needing to be on the seat. The man called me an idiot, and I decided to leave. I made a small scene and removed myself from the situation. My friends met me outside and were not happy with how everything went down. Was I an idiot to this man? My friends didn't want to switch places with me, which speaks volumes. They gave me a hard time for not wanting to sit there, yet none of them wanted to either. So I definitely wasn't the idiot. They wouldn't put up with it, so why should I? There are so many fake service dogs out there. As a service dog handler, I know that the dog should not have been on the seats unless actively performing a task at that moment. If you're in the US, the ADA even has a section about this and states that seating, food, and drink are provided for customer use only. Restaurants are not required to allow service animals to sit at or be fed from a table. I agree that this was not a true service dog, most likely. Service dogs are trained to lay under the table, out of the way. The dog did not need to be on a bench, and it was disgusting. Next time, I will call a manager to handle the issue. I will tell the manager that they will be reported to the health department if the dog is allowed to continue being on the chairs. I know this may be an unpopular opinion, but it needs to be said. If your disability requires you to have your service animal sitting on other people in order to get out, then you are too inhibited to be in public. At what point do one person's needs not override everyone else's needs? I have often wondered about this from the perspective of people with allergies being forced to be around service animals. I am all for closer parking spots, elevators, ramps, and bigger restroom stalls, but animals are still animals, even service animals. They shouldn't be banned, but for goodness sake, they need to be on the floor and away from other people. Currently, my boyfriend and I do not live together due to space, finances, and logistics. He has 50-50 custody of his two nearly adult twin sons. They are very nice kids. I've been with my boyfriend for 6 years and his sons are great. My boyfriend can be irresponsible with money at times. In September, he went back to school for his master's degree and had to give up a lucrative job. He has been living off of his savings, which have now run out due to his inability to budget and his expensive lifestyle. For example, he doesn't cook or even make a sandwich, so they only eat through DoorDash. He has been searching for another job that he can do while in school, but he hasn't found one in months. I have asked him to budget and to ask his sister for a loan, but he keeps saying he will, and then doesn't follow through. Since his savings ran out, he has borrowed some money from his aunt, but it was not enough. Reluctantly, I have been helping him, but I don't make much money and always stick to a budget. This situation is causing me a lot of stress. Now to the issue at hand. I put some money on my credit card and told him he could use it for food and transportation to school. However, that is all I have, and I asked him to be careful with it and come up with a backup plan. His sister can loan him money, but he hasn't bothered to ask her. For the past 6 weeks, when his boys are staying with him every other week, he has been ordering DoorDash for them. This has tripled the cost and is quickly depleting the money. His ex-wife, the boy's mother, comes from a wealthy family. She lives in a multi-million-dollar house and has expensive cars. For their 16th birthdays, the boys each received a nice car. They also have a trust fund worth $500,000 each that will be available when they turn 25, and their college expenses are fully covered. Neither of them has a part-time job, so they currently have no money of their own. For the past 6 weeks, I have been pleading with my boyfriend to have the boys talk to their mother and explain that while they are staying with their father, he has no job or money. He also doesn't have a credit card, so they can't eat unless I, his poor and broke girlfriend, pay for it. I suggested that they ask their mother if they can use her credit card, or if she can give them a loan for food, even just to buy groceries and cook for themselves. This way, I would only have to pay for my boyfriend's meals, which is still a struggle for me. However, my boyfriend claims that they asked their mother and she said no. This seems odd to me, as she is usually a responsible and kind person. I suspect that something may have been lost in translation. I have asked my boyfriend to speak to her, but he refuses. As a result, I have canceled my credit card this week and requested a new one with a different number. When my boyfriend needs something, I will order it for him myself. However, I have been refusing to buy food for the boys. Am I in the wrong here? I know my boyfriend is behind on rent, but he also needs to take responsibility for his financial situation. But he also knows I can't help him, so he doesn't ask. But I suspect he took out a high-interest loan to pay some of it, and probably his mom gave him some as well. Not the idiot. It's completely reasonable for this nice woman to say no to giving any more money to this money pit of a man, and you should do the same. His priorities are a wreck. He's got 2 kids to support, yet he quit his job? Ridiculous. And you're enabling him with every penny you give him. He's got a whole family of women giving him money. You, his ex, his sister, mom, and aunt, you all need to stop. It's time for him to grow up. Wow, this dude is a professional parasite at this point. It's borderline impressive. That's 5 women giving this dude money. I really suggest you thank your lucky stars that you don't live with this man and take the opportunity to get away from him. He's a leech. Why did you give your boyfriend, who you know is bad at managing money, access? And he is at least a 40-year-old man who cannot make a sandwich. Seriously, just dump this jerk. You're not the idiot for being unable to afford luxuries like takeout for your boyfriend's kids, but you are an idiot to yourself for putting up with this man's nonsense. For goodness sake, stop enabling your boyfriend. Get him a loaf of bread and a massive jar of peanut butter. Then the boys can stay with their mom until he, the boyfriend, grows up. My sister Jessica is irresponsible with money. She tries to live beyond her means and expects someone else to bail her out. This behavior has remained the same since having my niece Valentina, Tina. And Jessica has in fact been even less responsible with her spending. Jessica has been behind on her rent for months. She's treated it like a joke, constantly going to the mall and taking Tina on an expensive spring break vacation. Finally, Jessica's landlord told her that she had one last chance to pay back her rent within the next 2 months, or else he'd be forced to evict her. Some background on my family is that they all live in a very large house. 2 stories, 7 bedrooms, and a large yard. Family members built it generations ago, so my family pays practically nothing in taxes, but they're not well off. Their collective income is so low that they qualify and rely on services, such as the food bank. For this reason, they're unable to help Jessica pay her back rent. My family hopes I will help, because if Jessica and Tina move into my family's house, Tina will be forced to transfer to a bad school district. Tina's current school will allow her to finish the year, but after that, she's expected to transfer and begin middle school at a different school district. Jessica is begging me to help her with her rent because she doesn't want Tina to leave all her friends behind. She's also very worried because the school district within our family's address is known for being a bad one. This district has had many issues such as drugs since we attended as students. The amount Jessica needs would be a lot for me. It would still be possible for me to give it, but I refused. I told Jessica this was on her. She chose to live beyond her means and treat her rent issues like a joke. I'm not responsible for her choices. She chose to have a child. My love for Tina doesn't make her my responsibility. It'll be hard for Tina, but middle school is still easier to adapt to a new school, and friend groups constantly change during that age anyway. I also reminded Jessica that despite the issues at this school district, we didn't get involved in any of those bad activities because we were taught not to give in to peer pressure. Tina is a smart girl, and I'm sure she'll be fine. My family has told me that they're disappointed in Jessica, but they are also disappointed in me. They said that Jessica was irresponsible, but they had hoped I would put my niece's well-being first. I still feel like this situation is entirely of Jessica's making, and she has the sole responsibility for it. Besides, it's not as if Jessica or Tina will be homeless. They'll be able to stay at the family house. Tina will still have access to an education, even if it's not as good as the one offered by the previous school district. Am I the idiot for refusing to help with Jessica's rent? Your sister had the money. She just spent it. The bad outcome here is not so bad. She'll still have housing and a functional, if not preferred, school. It's a hard lesson, but she needs to learn it. And if I bail her out, it reinforces that she can just continue to live the way she does. Because give an inch, they take a mile. Big nope, not the idiot. You are not a bank. If your sister wouldn't pay back her landlord, who I assume she has a legal contract with, why should anyone expect her to pay you back when she already feels entitled to favors from you? You'd be enabling your sister's irresponsible behavior by bailing her out. And I agree, her conduct would not improve. Stand your ground, Opie. Any disappointment in you is misplaced. This isn't your problem to solve.